Friends, we are here for such a celebratory event, and we want to prepare this time before we open the doors and wow you. We just hope we wow you is what is going to happen. But before that, we begin with the essentials. We want to begin by thanking key people for their tireless work and generous resources that have made this dream of a house of prayer for all people, this building campaign, a reality. I want to thank the various committees and chairpersons who served since its beginning. The Sacred Space team, chaired by Louisa Jornavas. The Capital Campaign team, co-chaired by Doug Wiley and Mary Medley. The Construction Committee, chaired by Bud Starker. We want to highlight the countless hours, sweat, and angst that Martha Carlson, Bob Cloud, and Jason Hayes have given. And the project isn't over, so they can't disappear. But truly, there are not enough superlatives to describe their generosity of hours and spirit and heart. We want to thank Triba Architects, especially John McIntyre and Megan Burke and their whole team. Without Colorelli Construction, under the leadership of Vince Colorelli, Courtney Tucker, and their whole fantastic team, we would not be seeing what we see today. We want to thank the Alvarado family and the Lark Foundation for their generous financial resources that kicked off all of this and directed us toward success. We also want to welcome Lucas Nwali, our representative from the Denver Presbytery. And lastly, I want to give a big thank you to today's opening celebration team under the leadership of Linda Oros, who have worked creatively and joyfully to make this a really celebrative event. So let's give all of them a round of applause. Okay, I also want to give a quick historic timeline of our beloved Montview Church. I'm no Bob Matchett, the church historian, so if Bob is here, be patient with me. But I'm going to tell you the highlights. Before I tell Montview's story, I would like to acknowledge that our story on this parcel of land was home to generations of indigenous peoples before us. The land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples, and the 48 contemporary tribal nations that historically are tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contributions of indigenous communities in Denver. Now, as Presbyterians, we descended upon Denver in about 1860, and Presbyterians established the first Presbyterian church, which was Central Presbyterian on 17th and Sherman. In 1902, a group of individuals gathered to discuss establishing a Presbyterian church here in this growing community called Park Hill. A church was formed with 31 charter members, and they met at 2301 Forest, and I believe that was the pastor's house. In 1903, they bought the land we are on, which was a former DuPont munitions site, which had blown up. So the land was really cheap. And the members had to clean it up themselves. They named their new church Montview Boulevard Presbyterian Church. They moved a canvas tabernacle tent with a wood floor, and then they replaced it with an old schoolhouse. And in 1910, under the leadership of, under leadership, ? Someone knows, dedicated the first chapel we now know as our Heritage Center and Library. They had full intention from the beginning to build a sanctuary, so they finally did that, started in 1915, and dedicated what we know as the Miller Center, the Miller Chapel, in 1918. The Miller Chapel, the Heritage Center, the Memorial Library are all central pieces in this 2022 restoration campaign. In 1958, the new sanctuary was built and dedicated under the leadership of Dr. Arthur Miller. And in 1964, the Montview Cooperative Preschool started and found its home here and is still a robust learning environment. In 1987, the Westminster Commons was built to create an indoor space that connecting the education wing and the sanctuary. Now, along the way, updates and modifications have been made to various parts of the buildings, of course, and unfortunately, many of the spaces kind of slipped into disrepair, and by 2015, those disrepairs had to be addressed. Space always has its own story and its own voice to speak.
So in 2015, just a few months after Clover had arrived, the two of us decided on 4 strategic initiatives, priorities, that we wanted to guide our work in the coming years. We had a shorthand phrase for them: race, space, breadth, and depth. By space, we had in mind taking a comprehensive look at this historic building that we all love so much and think about its future needs. I just found an email this week dating to 6 months after that. It was the first meeting of the Sacred Spaces Committee. That was a team of people assembled in 2016 to start dreaming about how these sacred spaces might be transformed for future generations. That team's work led to inviting Triba architects to create in 2018 what we called the Long Range Campus Vision, a generational, aspirational plan that peered into the future 50 years at least to ask what kind of church we wanted to be and what kind of building we would need in order to be that church. After that came town hall meetings with sticky notes in Fellowship Hall and late night session meetings with flip chart paper taped to the walls. There were hard decisions about what we thought we could afford to do now. There were doubts and there was faith. I was among those who were not sure that we could do something as ambitious as what you are about to see. But others insisted that we should try. And in 2019, we began a House of Prayer for All People, a capital campaign that dreamed of raising $7.6 million in order to achieve 5 objectives. 1, improve and upgrade the infrastructure across the campus, the bones of this building that we so love. And as you walk around today, know that there is more than $1.5 million of work that you won't even notice. Wiring, plumbing, windows, fire safety for our children. 2, contribute a tithe, $800,000 to organizations outside of Montview that are working faithfully to change the lives of those in need here and abroad. And I am excited to say that we will begin that grant process as soon as next summer. 3, make the Commons shine like a beacon to the neighborhood. Let people know that Montview is here and vibrant and that it welcomes them. And build a bridge across it to that choir loft as a symbol and a tangible example of the commitment to inclusion that this church aspires to live by. 4, restore the Miller Center, our second sanctuary, to its original glory. Make it a first-rate venue for theater and arts, and let it once again be a space for worship and weddings and saying goodbye to loved ones. And finally, take Montview's original sanctuary with its humble roots more than 100 years ago and energize that whole Montview Boulevard side of our campus with new spaces for gathering and fellowship, a freshly imagined library, and a modernized telling of our heritage and our history. Those were the goals. Those were the dreams. In the end, this congregation committed more than $8 million to that project. And I could not be more proud of what you are about to see. It is the same old church we love, and it is something spectacularly new. It is an honoring of those who came before us, and it is a solid foundation for those who will come after us. And we should all be very proud and very grateful that in our time, in our generation, in a world so fraught with worry and fear, that we did something so bold and so tangible and so exceedingly hopeful. Thanks be to God.
What can you expect when you go through these doors? As Ian said, a lot you can't see, but there's a lot that you can see. So renovation of historic spaces, new carpet and furniture. Some pieces of the project aren't yet finished, and you'll see those too. And we have more work to complete our project. You'll see signs that say, please don't sit there, or you will fall onto the ground. You'll see signs that say, please don't walk through there. Please don't walk through there. You'll see a new heritage exhibition called The Jewels of Light, which is highlighting all the stained glass. There's a self-guided tour book. Please borrow it and then bring it back. You'll see TVs with pictures, a slideshow of the construction, and you'll see all the guts torn out and put back together. It's really fun to see those pictures. We have docents likely near wherever the balloons are. I hope the docents, they have nice big Ask Me name tags, and you can ask them questions. And Colarelli and Triba colleagues will be with them. And now let's cut the ribbon.
Okay.
Adam, take it away.
Thanks be to God.
Does anybody need to ask me anything? You guys know. Oh, spectacular.